Definition of trading bloc. A set of countries which engage in an international trade together and are usually related through free trade agreement or other associations. Definition of trade diversion. Trade diversion is an economic term related to international economics in which trade is diverted from a more efficient exporter towards a less efficient one by the formation of a free trade agreement.
The history of the EFTA. The European Trade Association (EFTA) is a free trade organization between 4 European countries that operate parallel and is linked to the European Union (EU). EFTA was established on 3rd May 1960 as a trade bloc alternative for European states who were either unable to or choose not to join the European Economic Community (EEC), which has now become the European Union (EU). The main difference between the early EEC and the EFTA was the absence of a common external custom tariffs, and therefore each EFTA member was free to establish individual customs duties against trade with non-EFTA countries. The Stockholm Convention established EFTA was signed on 4th January 1960 in Stockholm by 7 countries: Britain, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Austria, Switzerland, and Portugal. It became into force a year later. Finland became an associate member in 1961, and Iceland joined in 1970. The aim was to reduce tariffs between member states in stages as in the EEC, a process completed in 1966. Unlike the EEC, EFTA did not have a common external tariff, common policies, or any supernatural institutions. Small states such as Sweden and Switzerland benefited from EFTA as they had access to the heavy production market, large market of Britain, which provided 51 million of EFTA's 89 million population. The gains for Britain was much less. EFTA took only 10% of British exports in 1960. EFTA could never be a substitute for the EEC, which is population of 170 million and so. Only 7 months after EFTA came into being in May 1960, Britain and Denmark left EFTA in 1972 in order to join the EEC. Portugal also left in 1985 for the same purpose. The General Secretary of the EFTA, which has been nominated in 2006, is the Norwegian secretary called Karim Brine.
Definition of trade creation. Trade creation is an economic term related to international economics in which trade flows are redirected due to the formation of a custom union.
What are some of the benefits of being in the EFTA? Some of you might ask. Well, there are many benefits. The European Free Trade Association is an international organization whose purpose is to remove barriers to trade in industrial goods amongst its members. The idea of an intergovernmental organization to reduce tariffs on trade between the non-communist European countries was put forward by Britain in 1956. The EFTA began with 2 basic goals: to establish free trade amongst member states, and to seek a broader economic union with the rest of Western Europe. The first of which was accomplished in 1966, when most of the intra-EFTA tariffs were abolished. Negotiations towards the second goal began in 1961, when Great Britain sought entry into the EEC. Its bid was rejected by France in 1963. However, later discussions succeeded, and in 1973, Denmark and Great Britain left the EFTA to join the EC. The same negotiations produced a trade accord between the newly expanded EC and the remaining members of the EFTA. In 1986, Portugal also left the EFTA for the EC. The development of a single market between the EU and most EFTA nations was finally completed in 1994, when the European Economic Area, the EEA, came into being, hence fulfilling both of the initial goals of the EFTA. The EFTA currently has several free trade agreements with non-EU countries, as well as declaration on cooperation and joint work groups to improve trade amongst all its states, hence improving their economy and helping their GDP and GNP rise. Currently, the EFTA states have established preferential trade relations with 20 states and territories, in addition to the 27 member states of the European Union. Furthermore, there are other benefits other than those relating to trade and economics, for instance, such as the Portugal Fund. The Portugal Fund was established in 1975 when Portugal was still a member of the EFTA to provide funding for the development and reconstruction of Portugal after the Carnation Revolution. When Portugal left EFTA in 1985 to join the EEC, the remaining EFTA members decided to nonetheless continue the Portugal Fund, so Portugal could continue to benefit from it, hence showing that the EFTA is beneficial to all countries. The benefits basically that are derived from the EFTA are plentiful for countries in them, whether through enabling cheaper trade through the elimination of intra-EFTA trade tariff, creating a single market to enable wider and more free trade, or even helping out fellow countries in times of crisis.
There are many limitations faced by countries outside the EFTA. Taking Switzerland as an example, Swiss export and GNP ratios concerning EFTA reached less than half of those of Sweden and Norway, which are members of the EFTA. With 15.9% of all exports distinct for EFTA, export dependence was rather low for Switzerland. The main exports were the same as those of the EEC. There is a high share of non-electrical machinery, 25.7%, followed by textile manufacturers, 15.6%, and professional instruments, 12.1%. However, the three-sector export ratio were small, indicating that the main market for those products were actually elsewhere. By staying outside EFTA, the Swiss manufacturers have faced high trade barriers, such as tariffs. Tariffs are a tax on imported products. This adds on to the price of the foreign product, thereby making them less price competitive.
Globalization is a mixture of the word globalization and localization. By definition, the term local refers to the individual, group, division, unit, organization, and community which is willing and able to think globally and act locally. The term has been used to show the human capacity to bridge scales, local and global, and to help overcome mesoscale bounded little box thinking, which has been a great problem in corporations which have started up all over the world and have been unable to expand globally. Locals is a term often used to describe a new social class. Expat managers who travel often and switch homes often, and are therefore both global and local, and hence localization has affected them.
Free trade area, such as North America Free Trade Agreements, where member states agree to trade freely with each other, but have separate trade barriers with non-member countries. Economic Partnership Agreement is a free trade agreement under World Trade Organization rules between two or more countries. Economic Partnership Agreement gives preferential access to markets for businesses within the member countries. The World Trade Organization is an international organization that consists of 150 member countries which agree to work on reducing and eliminating barriers to international trade. As advocates of free and fair trade, member states resolve trade disputes through the World Trade Organization. It was set up in 1995 in Geneva, Switzerland, to replace its predecessor, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade.